Hi everybody, hope everyone had a great spring break. I'm going to do a video here on some basics of a matrix. I'm sure we've heard about a matrix before in Algebra 2, but if not, it's okay. It's a pretty simple idea. So what we're going to look at first is just basically what a matrix looks like. So here's some examples of some matrices. So I'm going to draw a line between these matrices here. So a matrix has a dimension of the row by the column. So it's usually the dimension of the matrix. It's kind of like the size of the matrix is m times n. So usually it goes by row, then column first. So if I look at this first matrix on the left, let's call that A, and this one B. This matrix on the left has one row and one column. Okay, so this is one row and one column because the row goes down here and a column. It's like a intersection between a row and a column. So this is known as a 1 by 1 matrix. So m and n equals 1. So the matrix on the left is a 1 by 1 matrix. Let's look at the matrix on the right here. This matrix has one row, so one row straight across, but there's 4 possibilities for a column. So this matrix on the right is a 1 by 4 matrix. So the one on the left was a 1 by 1, and the one on the right is a 1 by 4. So we can say that m equals 1, and n equals 4 here. Okay, so remember the up and down is the columns and the sideways is the vertical. Let's look at this next matrix here. So let's say we have this matrix here, which is 0. It's actually a 0 matrix, all zeros. So if we look here, there's 2 columns and there's 2 rows. So what we're going to have is, here's M1, M2, so my total rows equals 2. My columns equals 2. So my n equals 2 as well. So this matrix is a 2 by 2 matrix. All right, let's look at another one. So I have a matrix here, 5, 0, 2, -2, -7, 4. And we're going to check and see what the dimension of this matrix is. Okay, so let's use a different color here. So I have 3 rows by 2 columns. So this matrix we would call a 3 by 2. Let's get another one. Okay, so now we have these numbers here stacked up like that. So I have 3 rows. I have 3 possibilities to go up and down, but I only have 1 column like that. So this is a 3 by 1. And remember, the rows go first and the columns are second. Okay, so rows, then columns. So that's how we check and see what the dimension of the matrix is. What I'm going to do now is put this matrix on the screen. I'm going to pause the video, and what you should do, actually you're going to pause the video, and you're going to see what the dimension of the matrix is on your own as a checkpoint. All right, so I'm going to put this matrix up, pause your video. We'll go over the answer in a couple minutes. All right, so here you should have seen here that there's 2 rows and 3 columns. So this one's just a 2x3 matrix. All right, so that's the first half of your homework that you're going to see that's due tomorrow night. And the second part of your homework is turning into a system of equations into a matrix. So we worked on system of equations. Now we're going to turn them into a matrix. So let's start with this one. So we have a multivariate system here. And all we're doing is turn it into matrix form. This is already in the correct format for us with x, y, z, with the variables going x, y, z. So x, y, z, and then the coefficient that it's equal to. If it's not in that form, the first thing we need to do is put it in that format before we can change it to a matrix. So what we're going to do is we're going to write an augmented matrix now. So we're going to write an augmented matrix. Okay? Given that system here. So this is all we have to do. We write our matrix, and all we're going to use is the coefficients of the system given to us. So let's look at this format here. The first equation, I'm going to put this coefficient here. That's if there's not a number by the variable, it's 1, so that's going to be a -1. This one here, there's 0 y's, so we have to make sure we understand that. That spot is going to have a place value of 0. Okay? So on my top row, I have 1, -4, 3, 5. All right, 1, -4, 3, and 5. But the only real difference here is that instead of an equal sign, we're going to put 3 dots here. It's kind of the equal sign for a matrix. On the second row, I have -1, 3, and this is -1 as well, and -3. That's +3 for the y. I have -1, +3 for the y. The z is -1, and my equals is -3. And I put my 3 dots, right, just like that. In the last one, we have 2, 0y, -4, and 6. So we're just going to put that right there. 2, 0y's, -4, and put my 3 dots, 6. Okay, so that is my augmented form. Let's write that down. Augmented form. So your second half of your homework is just turning it into systems of equations into an augmented form matrices. All right, so let's look at another one. And notice that this is my, I'm going to use a different color here. Yeah, let's just use a little white here. That's my x. This is my y category. That's my z. And this is my answer here. Besides equal signs. It has to be x, y, z before we can even get started here. Let's look at this last example here. So let's say I have this system of equations. I have x plus 3y equals 9, -y plus 4z equals negative 2, x minus 5z equals 0. Let's make that a little bigger there. All right, so here's our system. We want to write as an augmented form. Okay, so basically we're turning this system into a matrix. So let's look at our coefficients here. Well, we have a 1x, I have a 3y, but don't forget there is a 0z because I have a highest z variable here. I have a negative 1y, a 4z, but I have a 0x. I have a 1x on the bottom, minus 5z here, but we have to plus 0y. So it's going to be 0y minus 5z. So we have all of our values. So we have to make sure we have all of our placeholders in there before we can go to an augmented form. So this is what we have. Let's look at the matrix. So on the matrix, we're going to have a 3 by 4 augmented matrix. So my first row is 1, 3, 0, 9. Now the 9 is on the right of the 3 dots. My second row is 0, negative 1, 4, and negative 2. And negative 2. And the last row is just 1, 0y, and negative 5z, and 0. So I'm going to have 1 as my coefficient, 0, negative 5, and 0. 1, 0, negative 5, don't forget the 3 dots, and 0. So here's our matrix in augmented form. Now let's also point out, so this will be helpful for the next video, this is known as row 1, row 2, and row 3. And of course this is column 1, column 2, and column 3. So that's all we're going to be practicing tonight for our homework. If you have any questions, please let me know.